Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sex and Suicide Podcast. I am here with a special guest for our Mental Health and Motivational Monday. You, my dear, are our first actual radio experience guy on the show. So you actually have more experience than I do.
I was going to say, it's not going to show. As we keep going, people are going to be like, really? He does that for a living?
Well, we'll get into your story. His name is also, just so you know, if you didn't see the tag earlier, this is Jay Stevens. And you and I met, you're new to London, fairly recently, eh?
Yeah, it'll be a year in August.
Right. And the first event that we met at, I was DJing it, and you were the MC. So you were walking around, you were no stranger to a microphone. And that was like the worst setup for where the speakers were because...
Speakers in the middle, people set up around the perimeter, and it's a wide open room, and it's not set up for acoustics, and it's just like sound bouncing everywhere.
Not at all. And I'm sitting there trying to monitor feedback, like where you guys are, where are they, right? Move the speaker around, making sure. But you did a fantastic job at that event.
Well, on the other side, the most difficult thing for you, I think, wasn't trying to monitor the sound, it was trying to figure out where the hell I was, because I'm like a squirrel on diet pills when you give me a wireless. I just kind of walk around.
Yeah.
I think I came out of the men's room.
Oh, yeah, you were in there. Yeah. You were in there at one point. Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, man, all business all the time.
All the time, buddy. So what was that like? Was that your first charity experience here in London? Because you seemed a little bit more nervous than at that event than the other events I've seen you at so far.
I am nervous at every event.
No shit.
I've been doing this. I got into radio when I was 17, 18.
Yeah.
And started doing events when I was 18, 19.
Okay.
But it's the exact same now as it was when I was a kid. Because you got to remember too, right? Whether it's a charitable organization or you're emceeing somebody's wedding, they are literally putting the keys to the castle in your hands.
Yeah.
Imagine going to a circus and the ringmaster sucks.
Yeah, 100%.
It's a total buzzkill.
Yeah.
So when you're doing events and everything else, I mean, you put just as much research into your event that you're doing,
right,
as you would for a show or for an interview with an artist or a celebrity or anything like that.
Right.
So that's why when people talk to me all the time and say, oh my gosh, if you're talking to a group of high school students or college students, they're asking, who's the most famous person you met, and and what do you love most about interviewing people? I'm like, I like going to the events and actually interacting with the audience that could listen to me on a daily basis.
Right.
And doing those type of events.
Because those are the people more likely to be supporting you than the actual person you're interviewing that's famous or whatever the fuck, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I can't remember the last time Pitbull actually said, hey, stop everything. Jay's on.
Yeah. Did you ever interview Pitbull then?
I haven't. And the funny thing
is, you look like him in one of the pictures. Do you get that a lot?
Yeah.
You do, eh?
That's the thing. If you're bald and you're tanned, you've got two options.
And the sunglasses.
Exactly. I mean, bald and a tan, people are like, okay, so is this guy hawking like magic erasers? Is he Mr. Clean, or is he gonna Caiocho on me?
We'll get you buffed so that you can pull that off. All right, buddy. If we're gonna be Mr. Clean, you need the earrings, and we need to get you in a white t-shirt. Get those arms up.
I'm really glad that you're actually wearing sleeves tonight. I was very apprehensive. I was going to show up in a sweater and just say that I left my muscles in my other shirt.
Buddy, you're looking great these days. We've got the glow. Jay's been out playing baseball. He's got some sun-kissed skin here. Looking sexier than ever. So this is the thing. Are you single? Let's put this right out there right away. I know this is a complicated put you on the spot situation right now.
I was just going to say, I was like, okay, that's great. Now I know how the people that I interview feel when I hit them with a sledgehammer 9 seconds into an interview. I think the best way to describe it would be it's complicated.
It's complicated, that Facebook status.
Yeah. We'll
get into that, will we? A little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. There's nothing that's off the table.
Perfect. Well, I can't wait to hear it because you and I, like I said before, we've met at these charity events. I've had a great time getting to know you. We've only gone out for, one coffee together.
Yeah.
And the bromance is just blossoming. So this is like my chance to really dig deeper and see what's underneath all this radio kind of persona that you've created here. So
well, and the cool thing is that where it all kind of came to a head was...
Today, are you bringing up the dance lesson?
No, I wasn't even going to say. Right. I wasn't even going to say. I was just trying to choose my words wisely because I said it all came to a head, and I was thinking I wasn't wearing pants, so this is going to be really awkward. Time to backpedal.
Right.
Was you and I recently did an event, and we were both models in the event.
Yeah.
And you'd mentioned that you'd done a podcast and everything else, and I kind of inquired about it.
Yeah.
And you said that it was the Sex and Suicide podcast. And it's hilarious because that actually was blowing up my social media account at the time because people that I'm connected with
were coming
either love the page or share the page or were coming on as guests. And I was like, well, that's wild.
Yeah.
So then I dug a little bit deeper. I liked the page. I started watching some of the stuff that you were doing. And I thought, you know what, it's great. Not only in a market like this, but I think just in general that people have something like this, that they've got an output for what they're feeling, for how they're feeling.
Yeah.
And, you know, as you and I kind of talked about off camera, off mic, everybody's got a story.
Yeah, 100%, man. And that's, and everybody, no one's story is more important than the next person. Just because, like you said, Pitbull or someone famous, just because they're motivational speakers. And I don't know if you knew that, but Pitbull's branching out into motivational speaking. He does have quite a story. But there's just as important a person that has a very similar story to that can come here and just say, hey, you know, inspire someone. And people kind of connect with that because not everyone's going to be Pitbull, let's face it, right? So,
well, exactly. And the cool thing is that, you know, people come on here and there's a diatribe, and maybe, you know, they're not interested in my career, my love life, but maybe there was a trial or a tribulation at some point in my life, or one of your other guests' lives that people can attach themselves to. And I think at the end of the day, the purpose of this and the entire message is that, you know, it's cool when you can empathize with somebody else's story. It's always nice to be able to relate to somebody else, good, bad, or indifferent, and know that whatever you're feeling, like I say, good, bad, or indifferent, somebody else is either feeling that at the exact moment or has gone through it, and you kind of see how they come out on the other side.
Yeah, and you can see that there is hope for you.
Yeah,
for sure. And you're not alone. Just being that feeling of not feeling alone anymore, and knowing that someone feels those same feelings you're going through. Whatever it is. I mean, we've had such a fucking wide range of different kind of issues that have come to me really in the last little while that I don't think there's anything that I haven't discussed right now. I mean, unless you're about to bring something crazy to the table, which I hope you are.
Well, there was that time with me and a rhino. We were comparing horns.
Yes, and who won? By a landslide?
Well, he was asking if mine was an innie.
Perfect. So, okay, buddy. So, first of all, let me say thank you for joining me because I know that this was a big step. I mean, you being in radio, and I appreciate the fact that your boss lets you come on here because that's amazing. I mean, at the end of the day, the message is positive. A little bit of a loud title, let's face it, but goodness, you know, thank goodness she got it, and she's, you know, and thank you for taking the time to push for this because I think it's important.
Well, and the cool thing is that, you know, anytime that you do something like this and you explain it to people and say that you're going to do it, they, like you said, it's a loud title.
It is.
And that's the whole point of this,
right?
It
is the whole point.
There are so many loud subjects that are kept on such a quiet front.
Sure.
That we kind of expose by doing these sort of things. I've been able to introduce a lot of people in my circle that are either in London or outside of the market to what is going on in the podcast.
Awesome.
And they have come to the page and they're really digging on what's going on.
Good.
So the cool thing is that, you know, it's by virtue of social media. That's exactly what it is.
Awesome.
Whether it's Facebook, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Twitter, anytime that you can, you know, find the people that are in your tribe, so to speak, and introduce them to different things. That's kind of how you get that widespread following. And like I said, I believe in what you guys are doing.
Awesome.
I love it. And
awesome, dude. Well, I love having you here. I'm really grateful for you being here, and I agree with you 100%. And this is the time to kind of use social media for a positive purpose because there's so much fucking bullshit on there right now where it's highlight reel, look at me, look at me, look at me. It's this attention addiction that's happening. And it really is becoming a drug. It's becoming a problem.
Absolutely. If you take a look at most people's Facebook accounts, Instagram accounts, you're not seeing the this. You're not seeing their true story.
No.
The thing that makes people beautiful are their blemishes.
You know, if
you are in a long-term relationship or if you're married, you learn to love the person that you're with more because of what makes them screwed up, as opposed to the things that they share with other people that make them look perfect.
Yes. The imperfections and the flaws are what's beautiful in the end. It makes them different. It makes them unique.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's where people are different than cars. Basically, your car's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
You know, it's there's no hiding that. But yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I go on people's social media accounts and stuff, and the other thing too is that it just I worry because I'm 34.
Yep.
And social media kind of really started after I got post high school, post college.
Yes.
I worry about that 18 to 24 demographic.
Absolutely, man.
That are in that 12 to 25 range. You're always image conscious, brand conscious.
Yeah.
And now
you can't get away from it.
At that age, they're now being taught to create their own brand,
right?
And make themselves a brand, and that's what really worries me.
I never thought of it that way. You're right. Like, you do have to almost create a brand for yourself because you are out there in the limelight, even if it's within your own circle, your own high school or whatever. That is the world at one point in your life when you're that young. Right?
Oh yeah, and I mean, I talk about it all the time. Like, I mean, given what I do, the context of what I do, and even conversations that you and I had before coming on here.
Yeah.
It's life in a fishbowl. I can't go out on Richmond Row on a Friday night and behave crazily because somebody might see me, correlate that to what I do.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it causes a headache at work or what have you. I mean, I can't put myself in professional jeopardy. But the thing is that you get a lot of these kids that, I meet people, I do this, I do that, everything else, and have a chance to attract an audience every day. I take a look at some of these high school kids now that have like 3,000 followers on Instagram because everybody in their high school is following them. And it really frightens me because I know how addicted to this I am.
Yeah, no, I know.
And I've only had it for, a third and a half of my life.
Sure.
And you've
Which is the same for me because we're roughly the same age.
Yeah. And I just, like I said, I worry about us turning kids, turning young people, turning highly influenced people into brands too soon.
Yeah.
Just forcing them to really
be something they're not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Forcing them to second guess who they are to be who people think they should be.
Yeah, and that's one of the main reasons that I think that our anxiety levels are skyrocketing and there's becoming so much mental health issues is just because we haven't sort of figured this out. It's almost like we're still working with a primitive brain and technology is just growing exponentially and it's fucking causing problems. We can't keep up.
No, absolutely. I mean, given the fact that it's a world of information now.
Yeah.
And it's nice via social media you can create your own community and follow what's important to you, but it's hard to ignore the peripheral.
Yes. It's loud. It's very loud.
And I have conversations with people all the time that could not care less about what's happening in terms of the U.S. political scene.
Right.
That just using that as an example.
Right. That's a good example.
But it's what's on every one of their friends' pages, and the other side of it is that we're not only in a culture and a society of information, but we're in a culture and a society of misinformation.
100%, man. It's not about checking the facts anymore. It's about who can get the story out first.
Yep. Don't be right, be first.
Absolutely. And it's dude, I experienced that firsthand and it was a ton of bullshit because retractions now, I mean, they'll be this big in the middle of the newspaper or whatever and you might be on the front page that one day. So like it's completely it is. I mean, I don't usually say that Donald Trump is right, but when he says fake news, maybe the news he's talking about isn't the fake news, but there definitely is fake news floating around.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you have to kind of be a researcher now. You have to find, when you read one article, you almost have to fact check it and see if there's at least a couple more just like it.
Well, and it's hard to become engaged in those conversations with people that do get roped into those certain things, or that only read a headline, don't read the story. I love the satire news sites that are out there. I read the Beaverton all the time.
Yeah.
Because I think it's hilarious. I think the writing is incendiary, but I mean the
imagination's on those writers, man.
There are times that I've actually seen people react to the headlines as if they're true headlines.
I know.
Then you have to explain. But by that point, they've gone way off the deep end. Or like they've stopped following you. They're no longer friends because...
You know that they're an idiot.
Yeah. Like I'm sitting there and it's like, I stay your friend because I'm entertained by how stupid you are.
Yeah.
But they defriend me because all of a sudden I make a joke about the fact that Sidney Crosby is playing the rest of the playoffs without a head for fear of getting another concussion. It's that type of shit.
And it goes further. Like I posted an article about a woman that her vagina was attacked by a crab because the crab thought it was an oyster.
I read that
Yeah.
last week.
Yeah.
I thought it was awesome.
It was hilarious, but the amount of people that actually believed it, and I pretty much said, like, sometimes fake news is more entertaining.
Yep.
And I don't even know that it's fake, but I'm pretty sure it is. When I got down to the fact that I can't remember what it was, but there was something that was blatantly fucking bullshit, and that was one of the more engaged articles, and I thought, this is fucking ridiculous now, because. And God bless him, because I was entertained by it too. I was laughing my ass off by the end of the article. But it does get out there to the point where people are now putting things online. They're just like trying to see what they can get people to believe, and they're making up these stories that are absolutely awesome, but people actually still buy it.
Well, and the other side of it is are there more fabrications, and are people sharing more of these fabrications to kind of provide a bit of a smokescreen for some of the bullshit that's actually going on right now?
Sure.
I mean,
yeah.
you know, and it's
scary. It's scary, actually.
Well, and
to some extent,
it's scary to a large degree, but for me, it's nauseating some days when you find something that is trending heavily. You know, for example, you know,
because you have to be on top of that, right?
Well, yeah,
to some extent.
It's important. It's important for us to be informed.
Yeah.
And for us to know what's trending, what's topical. But I mean, you know, a great example is minimum wage going up.
Yep.
Across Ontario. I mean, you couldn't go anywhere on Facebook without somebody sharing a story, having an opinion, and then the worst are the threads that you get into.
Yeah.
And you get all these armchair, you know, quarterbacks of politics that sit there and say what's right and what's wrong, and it's like, do you have a grade 11?
Yeah.
Like you know, and that is no slight. I just mean, like, I trust the elected representation to make the right decisions.
Sure.
No parent is perfect, but they're allowed to raise kids.
Yep. Yeah.
So you know, at the end of the day, it seems to me, it's like, okay, I often go back to the statement, fight the war at home.
Yep.
You know, make your world as great as you can make your world.
Yeah.
Because there are often things that you can't change.
No.
And if there are things in the world that you do decide that you want to change, be a positive change.
Yes.
Don't be somebody
Yes.
that jumps on Facebook and gripes and complains and leaves a 4.5 paragraph
What a waste of
diatribe.
time.
Well, especially when they're littered with grammatical mistakes.
Oh, I know.
There are 3 versions of there, and you didn't use any of them properly. So
But you did use all 3, so good for you.
exactly. Yeah, I'm not sure which one to use. They're all here. But no, it's I think you know, again, I go back to the point and the purpose of this is the fact that there is so much BS that's floating around out there.
Yeah.
It's nice when you can bring it back organically and people can come on here and be real. And I like the fact, you know, for me, I mean, whether my story is good, bad, indifferent, or impacts anybody is inconsequential to me.
Right.
By you,
I want to hear it though.
But by you having another guest, by somebody else coming on, it's hopefully breaking that barrier down for more people to say, okay,
Right.
you know what, that person allowed themselves to be real for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, what have you. You know what, maybe I'll drop Sean a line and I'll volunteer because I've got a wild story or I've got something that I want to get off my chest. Mm-hmm. Or people just, as we talked about before with empathy, people just want to know if there are others out there that can share in that plight or share in that success, that triumph.
Sure. So when you, what would you say that you reach, your reaches on your radio show every day? Like what is your potential reach?
Well, I know my mom listens online,
Awesome.
So like
one for sure
is the minimum.
Yeah. Do you know how many listeners tune in?
Yeah, I mean, we get ratings that come out a couple times a year.
Yeah,
and I mean it gives you a ballpark figure.
Yeah.
So I mean, for my show on a daily basis, I don't know, 35,000, 40,000 maybe.
35,000, 40,000. So that's a pretty substantial reach, right? I mean, and how do you stop yourself from swearing? Because I know you have a quota. We've talked about this.
Everybody asks that.
Yeah.
That is like, honestly, anybody that gets to know me doesn't really care about what I do. It's the number one question. Is like, how do you not say fuck?
Yeah, how do you not say fuck?
I'm like, because, you know, you get into the studio.
You're doing pretty good here, too, by the way. I thought I'd be hearing them, like, all the ones that you've been saving up from today.
Well, I know, and that's the other thing. Like, I just kind of said it under my breath, but that's the ironic thing. I said it under my breath into a microphone. Handsome, not smart. This is built for comfort, not for speed.
Maybe they'll miss it if I just whisper shit. Yeah.
No, it's just one of those things, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's no different than, somebody that's an accountant or a lawyer or anything like that. When you go into a studio, it's controlled anarchy and it's fun, but it's still a very much professional setting, and you know what you can and can't say, and lines that you can and can't cross.
Have you ever let one slip out on the air?
I haven't, but people have on my show.
And what happens?
Well, I mean,
is there a bit of a delay in case that happens?
There's a delay,
but not enough time to clean it up.
Sometimes not. It's literally like if you're out doing a live broadcast and you're at a festival and Jimmy walks over and you think that Jimmy's going to be funny radio because Jimmy's got walleye vision because he's been in the beer tent since Febtober.
Yeah.
It's like, are you having a good time? Fuck yeah. And then you just keep going.
Yeah.
You just keep going.
It's like it never happened.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like your butt cheeks just go like that, and you really pray that Well, I mean, that's the one time that you hope nobody's listening to your show.
Yes. Yeah. The one time.
Yeah. I get a text when I get home from Mom.
That was nice.
So I heard somebody say "fuck" on your show. I'm sorry. I won't put Jimmy on anymore. But
that's amazing.
I should have known not to do the show live at the family reunion. Everybody's hammered.
Yeah.
But
those are the best, by the way. When someone comes up and there's totally puts the person that's doing the interview in an awkward. You can just see the awkwardness when they catch it and try to move forward.
Well, and that's just it. I mean, you take a look at me. You watch me play sports. You're not going to put me on the top line for the Red Wings. You just know what you're going to get out of people sometimes.
Yeah.
And you have to. That's the big thing, right? I mean, this is a very powerful weapon.
Yes. Yes.
So when you're in a situation like that, you have to understand that. Okay, this guy's juiced, and you know what? You've seen it all the time too. I mean, sober people and interviews and everything else.
They let it slip too.
Dude, the whole fucker right in the pussy thing, like that.
Oh my god!
We all watched it 1,000 times. We all laughed, but for anybody that's in the media, I mean, you sit there and you feel for that person.
Oh, absolutely.
But I mean, it's just anytime you've got a hot mic and you put it in front of somebody, you're putting yourself at the risk of liability for whatever comes out.
Yeah, you really are.
And I warned my boss about that.
Yeah.
I'm like, you do realize, like me. She's like, yeah, okay,
it's a risk we're gonna take.
Yeah,
yeah.
You're not worth the risk, but the dunking bird is broken.
Which is kind of fucked up though. And I mean, everybody goes to the movies now, and there is not one. I mean, you're hearing swear words basically in kids' movies now.
Kids' movies. I mean, I can remember when
there's at least a shit.
If you wanted to see any nudity. And we're the same age, so you're going to know exactly where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
If you wanted to see any nudity, or if you wanted to hear any curse words when we were growing up, you had to watch City TV after 11 on Friday nights. What was it, the Baby Blue movie?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I spent a lot of...
I forgot about that.
I was a fat kid growing up, so I spent a lot of time on Friday nights with the Baby Blue movie.
That was always what I'd look forward to, and I think this was high school. I think it was on in high school at days. Yeah. So you go out for a few drinks, but it's an early night, and you're like, I've had a few beers, I can go home, and at least I can turn on City TV.
At the end of the day,
a few titties.
At the end of the day, Shannon Tweed has probably made a really bad movie, but it shows her boobs. So I'm watching Dinosaur Island again.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is, it goes back to what we talked about before with society being desensitized to so much now.
Yeah.
And you're right. I mean, kids movies, movies that are literally directed at kids that are coming out and they're PG. I remember, the Marvel movies started, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden Deadpool came out, and it was a trip because I took my dad to see Deadpool knowing what it was going to be like, and he was like, I think at the time like 64.
No shit.
And
how was that?
You know what? There were a couple times where I got borderline uncomfortable, but I looked at him and he's just kind of, bobbing his head along, laughing and everything else. And so was the 8-year-old sitting beside him. And that is, I'm like, I don't know what disturbs me more about who gets this joke.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
And again, I guess... versus what I do is that those movies and those television shows aren't public domain.
Right.
Parents can decide if they want their kids to watch this show.
Choice.
They can decide if they want to take them to this movie. When you turn on your favorite radio station, it's free. It's at public disposal.
There's an expectation there.
That you're not going to embarrass me. If I want my kid to learn sex ed, they can learn it, via their curriculum, or I can teach them about the birds and bees at home.
Or this podcast.
Exactly.
Yeah, we've got a new platform for sex kids.
Yeah, this is the birds and the BJs.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that's people hate it whenever any sort of control regarding their life is taken out of their hands.
Right. So you don't think there will ever be a day where it's like Sirius Radio on your network or?
Well, radio's already it's always kind of stuck to the code. It's always kind of stuck to the code, and I mean, it kind of started in terms of cable. I mean, you had HBO, and they were the first ones to show anything or
look
to,
at
or
that
to say
now,
anything.
though. Like,
because again, we become so desensitized.
Yeah.
It's like, all right,
how far can we push it?
So now it's like you used to have a show about killing, you used to have a show about sex, and now it's Game of Thrones, where it's like, let's just.
Yeah, kill and fuck everything.
Kill them while they're banging. Let's do that thing with the swords.
Yeah,
but
and let's put brothers and sisters into each other again. Like that was always cool, right?
let's do that again.
It's not incest; it's wincest. But anyway,
no, but it's
Game of Thrones. They're allowed to. They get away with it.
Yeah, I mean that's the big thing is that it's just we find ourselves in a society where it's just trying to one up one another.
It is.
You and I mean, you mentioned Howard earlier, and you and I have talked about Stern before. He was the first through the wall.
Yeah.
And everybody was thinking it. Everybody wanted to do
it, but they didn't have the balls to do it.
And one guy had the balls, and all of a sudden
and stuck to it.
Yeah, he goes through the wall. He's been taking the hottest arrows, and then you have everybody else that kind of comes out, and they all get kind of pigeonholed as knockoffs or whatever. But I mean,
right.
That's what happens anytime you have a pioneer anywhere.
When you got into radio, did you ever think that you wanted to sort of take that route? Like, did you ever look up to Howard Stern or anyone in the media that was similar to that? Or did you kind of have it all just kind of like, did you have it figured out, or were you just taking it one day at a time? Like, let's get into how you even got into radio to begin with.
Well, for me, I grew up in a small town, 2,700 people.
Yeah. How was that?
Well, there's a lot of farmers and a lot of hockey players, and I lived in town, and I was a shitty hockey player because I was fat. So it was kind of like one of those situations where, okay, and then the other side of it is, we go back to those 12-year-olds now that are very formative years in their lives, and then I can remember how tough that was, being that heavier set kid, because I always liken it to the movie Jumanji, because this is the second time I'm citing a rhino in this conversation, but they had like the big wave of animals, and there was always that like the fat comedic rhino that was kind of just like with the crowd but wasn't really with the crowd because he was kind of lagging behind, and that's how I kind of likened myself growing up.
Right.
And it's weird. I mean, we all, maybe people have a different perception of who I was, but that's how I always felt.
Right.
And I always kind of thought, I was like, okay, I'm not going to win people over with my looks.
Right.
I was your average academic. I was never, winning tons of awards because I wasn't really applied, because it wasn't what I wanted to do. I know that's going to really piss off my grade 11 history teacher, but at the end of the day, but no, for me, so it was like, okay, personality is going to win. I'm going to win rooms based on being that guy. So I was very fortunate that quick wit was actually the one genetic quality that my family gave to me that I'm proud of.
Really?
Well, I mean, male pattern baldness, small penis.
So you were a kid that was the rhino without the cock size, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Let's just clarify that.
Can we put that on a bumper sticker? But so for me, it was like, okay, and I did the exact same thing that I do now. I get involved in everything.
Yeah.
Because the other side was, okay, well, if I'm not going to be because I'm also highly competitive, which is talk about an oxymoron, because I was like the fat kid who wasn't good at anything, but I wanted to win at everything.
Yeah, sure.
But for me, it was like, okay, if I'm not going to lead any squad or any group or any posse, then I want to be involved in every one of them.
Right.
And I mean, it was a small high school, about 600 kids. And
so were you the likable kind of like jokester?
I was a bit of a smart ass, but I mean, I was involved in student council. I was involved in the athletic association. Again, ironic. Involved in drama and stuff like that. And I just kind of hung with all the different groups. And I mean, when it came to doing an event in the high school, it wasn't just pull the popular kids and do what they want to do and hope that everybody else will be a lemming and follow. It was, okay, what do you guys kind of like? What do you like? What do you like? What do you like? And then you kind of go through, you do that consensus, and then you basically say, okay, what's going to make the most people happy?
Really?
So,
And that was you?
Yeah.
Good for you, man.
So, I mean, and that's just kind of, how my life has kind of continued to flow. And, this is a great example. If I didn't, and I parlay this back to a lot of high school kids when I talk to them is, get off the bench.
Right.
And whether that be get off the couch and away from the video games. I know I sound like that old man that's pointing at kids to get off.
It's great advice, though.
But I mean, whether it be the video games, whether it be the screens, whether it be kids that are working 2-3 jobs because, they got to save up for education sooner than what we did now.
Right.
And there's all that financial pressure at home for mom and dad, especially if you've got multiple kids that are close in age.
Yeah.
Give yourself a break to actually go out and experience something, volunteer for an organization, get involved in a club, do that kind of stuff, because that did wonders for me.
Yeah.
And that was kind of how things snowballed for me into radio.
Right.
I got a high school co-op. I was very fortunate.
So you got a co-op radio at high school at a radio station?
Yeah. So, I mean, again, smaller markets allow high school students to kind of come in and everything else. It wasn't a very romantic high school co-op. I think one of my first jobs that I had was going out to the AM radio station transmitter with a shop vac to clean up mouse shit, which was awesome.
Really?
Because I went out with our engineer who was like fierce. I mean, I made the mistake of asking him like where in Britain he was from, and he was South African, and he just lost it on me.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't understand a goddamn word he said, but he just went off, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I get it." So I spent like the next month that I was working with him in fear.
Yeah, shit.
But the cool thing is that the industry was kind of changing at the time. They're going to automation on one of the shifts on Sunday nights. One of the people was leaving. And they asked me if I just wanted to push buttons once an hour. And
really?
I was like, well, this is amazing.
So how old were you at that age?
I was
like 16, 17?
I was 17.
17.
Yeah, so...
And you were in there pushing, was it just kind of one song after another kind of thing?
It was broadcast news once an hour. I just had to make sure that it ran.
Really?
And it was on the AM oldies station at the time, and then I got the green light to start updating the lottery lines. And you didn't have this at the time, so I literally was calling people at 11 o'clock on a Sunday night. Can you call the lottery line and tell me what you think of my delivery? Can you tell me what you think? How do I sound? People are, dude, I hate you.
Right.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
So you wanted feedback.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
And then, it was a big deal the first time that I got to do the weather.
Yeah.
And the thing is that I get just as excited about that, like thinking about that moment now as I did then, because by virtue of the type of kid that I was and the type of kid that I knew I wanted to be, and how I kind of realized that, okay, I'm never going to be the most popular kid, but there's merit in being the kid that nobody hates.
Yep. No, I agree.
You don't get your ass kicked, for starters, which is nice, because my mouth gets me into a lot of trouble. That's what I was joking about this with a friend. I said, yeah, I'm going to go on Sean's podcast. And they looked you up, and they're like, he's huge. I was like, that's why I keep him close to me, because eventually I'm going to say something, somebody's going to want to hurt me. It helps that his arms are bigger than my legs.
Well, there we go.
But yeah, I mean, so I kind of decided, I was like, okay, you know what? Radio, It sounds corny, but it was like I shared an affinity for music. I shared an affinity for people.
Yep.
And it was kind of a natural fit. And that high school co-op, just kind of reaffirmed things. And It was right place, right time. I didn't say no to anything. When
you did the weather, so how old were you when you did the weather?
18, maybe 19.
There's no meteorology background whatsoever.
I don't know that any weatherman has any meteorology.
That's what I'm getting at. Is this a typical thing? Like, where do you guys get the weather from then?
Well, it was via the news service and everything else, which basically comes from an expert meteorologist.
Okay.
So anytime,
so we think.
So anytime that we're wrong about the weather, just remember we're getting this from somebody who's wronger than us.
Right. So it just kind of floats out of somewhere to you.
Well, that's the thing. Now I got a great window over on. Well, I just look outside and I was like, oh, there's a chance of rain. No, never mind. That's just the gardener spraying the window with water. I think it's still sunny out.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, and from there, I wanted that college experience.
Yep. So did your experience with the radio that you had at that age, did that kind of direct you into a radio broadcasting program, or?
Well, and that was the big thing. I mean, I talked to so many people, different schools that they went to, because I wanted to find out, okay, who's going to have the best opportunity to push me into a job after I'm done? Who's got the best employability rate? And at that time, I mean, there weren't as many schools offering broadcasting programs or full service broadcasting programs as there are now.
It wasn't as big of a thing then, right?
No. And I mean, obviously, a ton of people said Fanshawe. Fanshaw's always been kind of the Cadillac of broadcasting programs.
Really? Good to know.
And in case you ever want to go to school, like it's just down the road for you.
Sure, why not?
I
go back to school at 34. I've always wanted to be the Billy Madison.
I was just gonna say, can you spell rock? R-O-C-K.
You saw how it ended up for him. He did all right. I mean, there might be some nice professors there.
You're right.
What's her name? Veronica or something?
Veronica Vaughn.
Veronica Vaughn.
She is one piece of ace.
That's right.
But
you used that term earlier too. This will be aces.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Right. Dude, that's how I roll. I have 3 words in my vocabulary.
No, you've proven a lot more than that.
But
so where did you end up?
I wound up going to Humber in Toronto.
What made you make that decision?
It was cool because it was Toronto without being right downtown Toronto.
Right.
When I was originally kind of toying with the idea of university, I was thinking about Ryerson, and then I was like, well, you know what? Humber was a great school. It was a good 2-year program.
What'd you take?
I took, it was radio broadcasting.
It was?
Yeah.
Okay, so you did. So this is awesome because you ended up in this co-op pressing these buttons, doing the weather, and now you've decided this is what you're going to do. You kind of knew at a young age.
And in between, there was a stint where I got basically whipped nonstop by the morning show on the rock station. I went by... I hate saying it now because I even go back home and I'm 34, I'm bald, I'm divorced. It's like so many more things to make fun of me for, guys, and they still hold on to that. They're like, "Hey, Danger Boy," and I'm like, "Yeah."
Why did you get the name Danger Boy?
It was a stunt thing. I was just the morning show. They wanted somebody Bob for onions. I was the guy that bobbed for onions, and it was also funny because I was fat. So there would be days where I'd be out there without a shirt on. People would be turning me into a human cake and stuff like that.
Really?
Oh yeah.
No shame.
But you can't because at the end of the day, I don't care what you're doing. If you can't look in the mirror on occasion and laugh at yourself,
yes.
If you don't have a sense of humor, you don't have anything.
Yeah, not at all.
Because you can't truly laugh with anybody.
Yeah.
And that was the thing, I mean, as the heavier set kid and as the kid that was always kind of the peripheral kid, that was the other side of it, in terms of endearing yourself to people. I was really self-conscious about it. I was,
about the weight.
Yeah, and I look back at it, I was really depressed about it. I was, a host of things that I felt held me back, and maybe they didn't.
Did you ever feel that you'd be less okay? So let's talk about when you lost the weight. Let's kind of jump forward.
Man, we are jumping all over the place.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I want to just see what was and you can tell me if there's a way to lead up to this. But was there a deciding factor of when you decided you wanted to lose weight?
Funny thing, and or
did it just happen?
I never I hated it. But I thought that I was, because I was about 250 pounds at my heaviest.
Okay.
And I had a mullet.
Yeah.
I wish somebody would have told me it was a mullet. I just thought it was really long hair. But anytime you have to go to a corporate event, I'd kind of gel it. And then I look at pictures afterwards and I was like, holy shit, I was a roadie for Motley Crue.
Oh, buddy, you're preaching to the choir, man. I want to get rid of this thing so bad, but I made the commitment to donate it. I got to go 9 inches here. I've never been 9 inches anywhere, so why not, right?
He's bigger than me, so I can't say anything. And
you can say whatever you want. I'm a good sport.
I know, and I can walk to the hospital when I'm done. No, it was a situation where we had a weight loss client on board with a radio station that we had just launched in Midwestern Ontario, and I remember they had all of the managers and / franchisees of the clinics upstairs, and our sales manager at the time came down, and we were all kind of in the jock lounge, and he said, does anybody want to do this program? They'll, you get it complimentary. You just have to stick with it, lose weight, da-da-da-da-da. And I thought two things. I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe this is what I need, the kick in the ass to lose it. Maybe I can prove to myself that I can lose it because there's accountability here. It's not just because at the time I was terrible at being accountable to myself. Right. I thought, okay, there's money on the line for the brand, and all eyes are going to be on me, and I did it,
Good for
and
you.
I wound up, I wound up getting down to, I think, about 175 pounds or so. And then, give or take 15, 20 pounds, my weight kind of fluctuated afterwards, but I lost it and I kept most of it off.
Were you one of those guys that made fat jokes about yourself?
Always.
So
still do. I still have a very hard time. Like, I look in the mirror.
Yeah.
Like, anytime a woman says anything about her weight, she's like, I look fat in this dress. I'm like, bitch, please. Like, I know
I've been
fat.
there, yeah.
I know fat.
No kidding.
And that's the other great thing is that, being there, being here now and everything else and all parts in between. I totally, anytime that I see those stories online, there was one on HuffPost this week about a woman that's, had a few kids and everything else. And she's a little bit heavier set. And there's a photo of her in her bikini beside her husband and he's jacked.
Yeah.
And
saw that one.
And she just talks about how he loves her
for her body, and she started to do the same.
Yeah. And that's the big thing for me is that and given the context of what I do, because it's nonstop conversation with so many people that you never meet, because people will always laugh. The walls have been broken down now because it used to be, you never know what your favorite DJ looked like, but now you've got, it became websites and then Facebook and everything else. So there are really no secrets anymore.
Right.
But for me, there are still so many secrets because of all the phone conversations you have. Somebody that calls in and requests a song. Somebody that calls in and wins a contest.
Right.
You sit there, and I try to keep them on the phone for about 35, 40 seconds because it's always great to know who's listening.
Right.
They always want to know a little bit more about who's talking to them, but I always want to know a little bit more about who I'm talking to.
Right, yeah.
So, it just kind of growing up with that mindset and then getting into the industry and then going through what I went through in terms of the weight loss allowed me to start seeing people without seeing them.
Right.
Because I started caring more about what was up here.
Sure, and in here.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you do something through via an action? Can you say something that stimulates me? Because this will wear off.
Right.
I'm a Botox it, and I'm gonna get work.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the looks are gonna fade, and you see those 90-year-old couples that are so happy because they literally goes back to what we talked about before. They love the imperfections. Mm-hmm. They love people for their souls, right?
Yeah.
And for what they for what voids in their life they fill.
Yeah, and they value the other individual on a deeper level than a lot of people in the world today.
Yeah,
really.
Absolutely.
Did you ever think that when you lost the weight, you wouldn't be funny? Did you ever have that fear? Like, you're a pretty funny guy, but I know a lot of comedians, when they lose weight, they think they're not going to be funny when they're skinny.
See, that's the thing. Like, I was fat, I had the mullet, so then I cut the mullet, and then my hair literally just went look, if you don't look like 80s white trash, we're all fucking going. So it's so then all of a sudden I was like, okay, great, I'm bald, male pattern baldness, I'm bald before I'm 30. And then, I'm not good in bed, and, I get a little dick, and, I work in radio, I'm not making Sean money here, my last name's not Rockefeller. So, that's the funny thing, right? Is that if you can laugh at yourself, there's always going to be something to laugh at.
Sure. So were any of these actual insecurities, or were these just more like points that you could use to create comedy?
I think for the most part, points.
Yeah. So you're not really insecure about these things. If you can laugh at them, there isn't any deeper issue to, when you say male pattern baldness or small dick or anything like that.
No, this is magician. Just all of a sudden we just totally Wizard of Oz here because we moved the curtain and people are going to know that everything I say is bullshit. It's awesome. I'm no longer going to be the funny guy. That's great.
I'm sorry, buddy. I'm so sorry. Let's go back in time.
Next week I'll be on a therapist's couch. I'm ruined. I gotta get out.
No, you're still hilarious with or without anything making jokes about yourself. You still got it, so don't worry about that. Let's go back to your university experience as a fat kid. Take it from there.
Again, that's where the self-deprecation kind of took a bit of a new level. Because it was like, okay, you can go and you can make fun of yourself. But the thing is, at the end of the day, you go to college for two reasons. Number one, a $10,000 piece of paper that says you can talk.
Right.
Which is in itself bizarre.
What was that program
And
like?
so many people are watching right now saying, bitch, you got ripped off. But it was the program like? I mean, the program. I mean,
what did you learn? What did they teach you?
Oh, it teaches you, how to, we talked about before, construct stories, beginning, middle, end, start with the end in mind, different types of personality things that you can do, find out what the most important things are. When you've got 45 seconds to talk or 60 seconds to talk.
You got to get to the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you still have to paint a picture. Like, that's what I love about radio, is that it'll always be theater of the mind. So if I'm telling you about something that is an absolute hot mess in my life, I want you to envision me as an absolute hot mess.
Yeah. Can you do that in 40 seconds?
Yeah, just relay it, my first sexual encounter. I'd still have 10 seconds to spare.
Perfect.
but it's so I went to school and all of a sudden it was like I say, it was like, okay, the self-deprecation, you can only go so far with it, because at the end of the day, you're in college, like I said, to get the piece of paper and to, on occasion, have sex.
Sure.
So you don't want to
have that. I hope you did.
On occasion. Like I said,
a rare occasion.
My bar was low. I just, once every 90 days with a real person.
Oh, yeah, they have those 3 months goals, I mean, every 90 days, get that goal accomplished. If you're getting late every 90 days, that's okay.
Yeah, but especially when you're fat with the mullet, right?
Sure,
like, I mean, that's...
So the mullet continued through university.
Well, and that was when it really started to, like, dude, again, that's what you go to college, you start to get heavier. So I went from being like, oh, he's husky, and then I'd like come home and be like, he's chubby, and then I get like, I was done school and people are like, bro, what happened?
So that freshman 15 continued into like a freshman 50?
Oh, yeah. It was like, dude, do you need to talk? Like, are you okay? Like, people didn't worry. You always worry. Parents always worry when their kids go away to school. Like, oh, I hope Timmy's getting enough food. I hope Melanie's okay. I come home and they'd be like, that fucker got OSAP. He eating good. But no, it's, so for me, I also kind of developed, it was like, I got to stand out another way here, because self-deprecation is not going to do it. So then I became kind of like the crazy guy.
The crazy guy.
Where it was like, 20 people wouldn't do that or 19 out of 20 people or 99 out of 100 people wouldn't do that because you'll die. I'm like, well, I'm going to be the one guy that proves them wrong.
Really?
Oh, God, yeah. They didn't like it was... They broke my ankle dancing at a bar once, and just like people are like, dude, are you okay? And like my foot literally rolled over, touched my ankle, and it was just like that. I was like, yeah, I'm good. Kept dancing for like an hour.
Wow.
And then just different stupid stuff.
So was any of this?
It was self-destructive. It wasn't good, but again,
But was it like? Was this kind of like you wanted to be liked by everybody? Was it for entertainment, or was it?
Absolutely, absolutely. Be the guy wearing the lampshade on the head. And the cool thing is that and it's kind of how my life has been. Is that at school I developed a small pocket of people that kind of got to know the real me, and like me a lot better as that person.
Okay. So could they see when the act was out? They could see Jay the actor kind of thing?
Yeah. And you get the little sidebar comment, where they kind of say, dude, like, you don't have to do that. And I'm like, yeah, but you kind of, and you like me and everything else, and you allow me to be myself. And I have this one chance.
Yeah.
And, for the most part now, I mean, as an adult, I've kind of settled that down a lot more.
Yeah.
Now it's I try to find
a lot of insecurities in university and college in that age, right? I mean, you want to be liked by everybody.
Absolutely.
And you think that's possible too at that age. You think you can be that it's actually an accomplishment.
That's the thing. I go back to those formative 12 to 25 years. That age.
It seemed like it was kind of crucial for you.
It was. Yeah. It was. I mean, there was an awful lot of me finding what I wanted to do and finding that side of myself, but I really didn't kind of discover who I was until, I was just shy of 30.
Okay.
Now we're skipping way ahead when I say my marriage went sideways.
Well, let's get into some of the sort of hardships you faced, because I know that by 30 you still gone through a lot. So after university and after college and after you got that piece of paper, what were you dating anyone at that time? I mean, you obviously had sex by this time, at least 30 seconds. I still think that's an over-exaggeration, by the way.
Yeah, I was like 19. I couldn't get my fly undone. I'm sorry. But no, it was, I went back. I don't know that I was with anybody, but I wound up getting a job right out of school back at the radio station.
Which is rare, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So how old were you then?
I lucked out. I was 20, maybe just turned 21.
Wow.
And then went back, worked there for a little bit, and then wound up going to Midwestern Ontario, launching a rock station up there, which
awesome.
was a great time.
Yeah.
I mean, I said before, radio's kind of controlled anarchy. There wasn't a lot of control on the anarchy up there. It was just kind of, it was kind of wild for a bit.
Cool.
But
did you like that? Did you enjoy that experience?
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, I lived in Midwestern Ontario for 10 years. Some of the best people that I've ever met in my life still live up there, and will occasionally leave the back door open for me to sleep on their couch if need be.
Where is that? Where's like you say?
So it was the radio station was based in Wingham, but
Wingham,
I mean,
okay.
we literally catered to, and this is the great thing. Anytime anybody wants to go up to, towards Sauble Beach, or you're going to Goderich, you're going to Bayfield, you're going to Owen Sound, you're going to Wyerton, Tobermory.
Right.
I can basically tell you every place that you need to stop and eat, every place that you need to stop and drink, where you should buy your steaks for the camping trip, everything.
No kidding. Which is beautiful in the summer, shit in the winter, right?
Oh, God. That's why I moved here from Windsor, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, you're moving back into the snow belt." And I'm like, "No, you don't know snow.
That's right. That's
you don't
right.
know snow.
That's right.
It was like everything was every day between November and the start of May is The Shining. It's just the Groundhog Day over and over and over. But yeah, no, so I moved up there. So I was, 20, 21, had a great team. And within the year, my boss took off for a great opportunity. Again, radio is kind of a nomadic industry.
Right.
It's not the way that, our folks, if, anybody working a factory or anything like that puts their 30 years in and gets their watch and their pin and everything else. I mean, I hit 10 years there and was really proud of the fact that I was there for as long as I was. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so my boss left within the year, and just before my 23rd birthday, my general manager asked me if I wanted to be the manager of the station,
which is huge for that age, right?
Well, and I've said at multiple speaking engagements, people are like, would you, if you could go back, would you do it again, or what would you tell yourself then that about? I was like, run, because I just,
was
it
too much?
Because I was also at the time I was dating a woman who had 2 kids.
Okay, at 22 years old, how old was she?
She was 25, 26 size. Yeah,
2 kids already. Yeah, that's a big responsibility.
So I was already very engaged in that lifestyle, and then everything else. There was a point where I thought, okay, well maybe the fact that I'm living this lifestyle already. Is kind of going to keep me balanced for this job, this manager's job.
Right.
It's made me mature. Well,
right.
Living makes somebody mature.
Right.
I don't live. I talked before about being competitive. I don't live for success as much as I live for mistakes, because those are where you learn.
Right. Yeah. Took me a long time to get that, but you're absolutely right. And I don't think there is such a thing as a mistake, really, or a failure. I think it's just you need to modify your approach and learn from that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Take a look at what made that not successful. A lot of the time in relationships, it's me in the equation.
Me too, man.
So
yeah, I took a little breather for a bit for that reason. As I fix this, I can fix the relationship.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it was unfortunate. It was sometime after the ultimate demise of my marriage, because I married that woman.
What age did you two get married at?
Got married at 25.
You were 25, so she would have been closer to 30 around that.
Yep.
Okay.
So
how long had you been together?
We were together for 2.5, 3 years by the time we got married, and then we were married for just over 4 years. I mean, we were together for 7 years.
So that's a long time.
So,
I mean, that's most of your 20s you were with this person.
Absolutely, and that's just it. Is that So I found myself at 29 after thinking that I was doing everything right. I was a manager, and I had a wife, and there were two stepkids and everything else, and got my dog. At that, I think in 2010.
You're a dog guy too, I can tell.
Oh, God.
I love it. Yeah, I'm a big dog guy too.
So anyway, it was, I thought, okay, I'm coming up on 30 and I've got it all together. And then, it was a lot of the stress, a lot of the pressures, a lot of the stuff that still eats me up, it was a bit of a breaking point for all of us. And
so
what was,
so tell me about that. What was it like? What was the experience like as you're leading up to divorce, and what sort of was that final breaking point where you just said, "That's it. I have to end the marriage"? Or did you end it, or did she end it?
She ended it. I think for me was I just I became married to my job.
Really?
And I allowed that to yeah, and I think anybody that is focused and anybody that is dedicated towards what they do and then have found their calling, their passion, be it whatever.
Yeah. It can be tough to make time.
It's very difficult to
balance.
To differentiate your personal life and your professional life. And so many times, you come home with those professional problems. You allow them to fester because you really can't. There's no way to really express that.
Right.
That you wind up finding little small things at home, and those become the problem.
Yep.
When the underlying is what's going on at work,
right.
or it's that age old. I can't take it out on you, so I'll take it out on you.
Yeah.
And
we talked about that on Sunday, dude. We talked about a lot of the anger and frustration because you can't really, if your coworker pisses you off, you want to still show maturity, you want to still show control, and you can't really lash out at them without some kind of consequence, right? But you figure if I bring that home, even if it's the smallest thing, it'll come up on the kids or on your significant other, on the spouse, and even though you don't want to let that out on them, you know that they love you and you can be that vulnerable with them and hopefully they forgive you.
Exactly.
And
there's that trust, there's that expected forgiveness, and people not having appropriate outlets.
Yeah.
Because we're being pulled in so many more directions than ever before, it's that age old, we're working more, we're making less. I don't know that we're working more, making less. I think we're working more so that we can spend more.
Yes.
And we're stretching ourselves far too thin.
Yes.
I'm guilty of that.
Yeah.
But goddamn, I needed the shoes. But no, regardless, it all kind of came to a head, and I kind of had an epiphany in the process too, because I was so focused on work and what little time that I allowed in my personal life that I spent at home. And then I was, volunteering in different things and helping out with other events and organizations.
So
as
that
well.
stayed a passion for you since high school, even just staying involved in charities, volunteer work, stuff like that.
Yeah, because those are like-minded people that you're associating with.
Yes.
It's very easy to make friends when you're a member of the I Love the Color Blue Club.
Right.
Right,
yeah.
You know that you have a starting point with every one of the members.
Yes, you have something in common.
But I realized too that I damaged a lot of relationships along the way, because and by damage I don't mean that I did damage to them. I just I allowed
Neglected?
them I allowed them to gather dust. I allowed people in my life to be backtabled, so to speak,
to be taken for granted.
And and the cool thing is that when I kind of fell down, because of the fact that I knew that there were others that were kind of relying on me and everything else, I was in the process of picking myself back up, and it was cool. You get back up and you realize that those people that maybe you took for granted are still standing right there to make sure that you stay up.
Yes.
And that was really cool, because it's gotten me closer to so many great people in my life, and I'm a huge family guy.
Right. Yep.
And we've talked about it before. I'm a giant mama's boy.
Yep.
So it allowed me to become excuse me, because I'd been buried in that lifestyle since essentially adulthood, getting right out of school and then moving away and everything else so quickly. It allowed me to kind of have that experience with my folks, that aha moment where it's like, wow, you guys are really, beyond the call of duty of being great parents, you guys are
going above and beyond.
Yeah, you're my best friends.
Yeah.
And I wear that like a badge of honor, because some people be like, oh, you're mama's boy, you're 34, and I'm like, So does
this mean they were there for you? Are you talking about when you were down, meaning the divorce?
Yeah.
So how was that? Like, what did you experience at that moment in time when she said, we're done? Like, what went through your mind and what went through your heart, really?
Wow, and that's just it. I mean, it's a wave of emotions, right? I mean, there's the what did I do? What can I do? How do I fix this? And sometimes, it's when people don't communicate, and again, it's hilarious. You know, I always say people that work in the communications industry, not radio exclusive, are the worst communicators.
Right.
You know,
you're in communications and you're having a tough time
exactly.
communicating.
We're very good at it when we're paid. So maybe if you want to marry somebody who's in communications, just pay them to be your spouse. But I mean, you know, all those things that you didn't do, you start thinking,
right.
How do I fix this? How do I fix this?
Right. Did you want to fix it when you first found out?
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's one of those, like, we had a good thing, and then you realize that maybe you're trying to fix something that has been broken and is far too gone.
Right.
So I mean, at that point, you know, for me, life kind of became a choose your own adventure, and it's like, okay, look, you can kind of wallow in the self-pity.
Yeah.
You know,
did you do that for a bit?
You know what? 2 weeks.
Really?
Because
wow,
again, you know,
that's pretty good. I mean,
I took a few days off work and everything else, kind of gathered my head, allowed some of those people, like I said, back into my life.
It didn't affect your job, though, eh?
Now, you know, I had a great group of people. I had a really good support staff at work. My you know, that was also a TSN turning point for my relationship with my general manager at the time. You know, and this was the second wave of general manager that I had.
Right.
And he was actually at one point a sales manager, and we butted heads. We laugh now about how much we hated each other.
Right.
But I saw a different side of him. I saw a very human side of him. And then when I saw that, it was like, okay, now I'm going to try to really understand you.
Yeah.
And when I did, and then I kind of look back at those moments of conflict that I mostly created because I'm very stubborn.
Right. Okay. And competitive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it was, you know, can't lose an argument.
Yeah.
I realized that those were all a part of the greater good and everything else. But yeah, so I mean, I needed an opportunity to kind of clear my head, come back focused, you know, look after the team. Make sure that everything, you know, because at the end of the day, I mean, business moves on.
Yeah,
and
it'll leave you behind if you. Yeah, yep. That's a thing.
And I was a coach of the team, and you know, as the manager, it was one of those. Okay, now you got to take your own advice, because I always told my team, you know, because whenever you go into that studio, you've got a responsibility. If I go in and I'm morose and I'm down and I'm depressed and I'm bitchy,
yeah.
How much of a positive experience is it going to be for you who's listening? Because you're down, you're depressed, you're morose, you're bitchy, you've got bills, you're in a fight with your spouse, your dog shit on the carpet, that type of stuff. You know, I always told my gang, I'm like, you know, we got to check our BS at the door before we go in the studio.
Right. And have you always successfully been able to kind of be on point, or has there been days where, I mean, everybody has off days, right?
You know, I told you, I'm an emotional guy. So I mean, there are times. Never really, you know, like the trial and tribulation type stuff. You know, I like to, in situations that I can, where I think that what I'm going through is something that somebody else has gone through, I don't play it off as a poor me. Right. I'll often, you know, I'll ask my audience for advice.
Yeah. Oh, really?
You know, make them, hey, they allow me to be a part of their life every day. I want them just as much as a part of mine.
That's a great idea. That's a great way to look at things.
You know, and it's a really.
How did that work out? Like, did you tell them about the divorce? Like,
gosh, yeah.
Yeah, and so you kind of said, like, this is what I'm going through, and
talked about that. You know, I had people call in, you know, longtime listeners and stuff like that would email or that would call the regulars and everything else. It's
That's
like being
amazing,
a bartender.
Man. That's so cool.
And you know, like I had listeners calling up and saying, "Hey, man, if you want to grab a beer or something like that and talk about it, you know, let me know."
Wow.
So it's always been a neat dynamic, and I think a lot of people who listen to the shows, you know, they get pissed off, you know, if their favorite DJ just leaves, or, you know, like if they're leaving and they're going to competition, they're not allowed to go back on the air, or if a DJ gets fired or whatever else, people are always...
They want to know about your life, too.
Because it's like, wait a second, that was a part of my routine. I hate change. Where did that person go?
That's right.
You could have been the one person who liked that DJ. Everybody else hated them, but because they were a part of your life, you get frustrated. You want to know where they are.
Yeah.
So I just kind of developed that rapport over time with people and stuff like that. So yeah,
that's amazing.
So when all that happened, it was, like I said, kind of an opportunity for me to either sit there and be bummed about it and allow myself to kind of continue the downward spiral, because obviously I wasn't treating myself or others around me that great.
Yeah.
Or it was an opportunity for redemption, a good chance to hit the reset button and say, okay, you know what, that was the choose your own adventure that you chose, and you hit a brick wall there. So now's the opportunity to choose another adventure, and that's kind of what I did. I stayed in Midwestern Ontario for a couple more years. I was lucky the company that I was with afforded me an opportunity to move down to Windsor.
Yep.
Which by that point it was the radio station that I started my on-air career with.
Crazy.
But it was rebranded to a different format.
Okay.
And I went down there, and I was like, okay, I'll be here for 3 years.
Yeah.
And excuse me, being a massive Detroit sports fan.
Yeah.
Except for the Pistons and the Lions. Sorry, I can't. I have to be a dick somewhere along the line and cheer for the Patriots.
Yeah.
But I'm a Wings guy. I'm a Tigers guy. I was super excited to come back home and everything else, and get to the odd game and everything else, and take Pops with me over to a game. So it was just neat, because I'd known Windsor, as so many people know Windsor as being, it's a great party town, everything else.
Yeah.
But moving there, it was such an eye opener, and so many people, I'm quick to correct when I moved to London. They're like, "Oh, where'd you move from?" I'm like, "Windsor." They're like, "Oh, sorry to hear that." I'm like, "No. The food game is on point.
Yeah.
The craft beer. I'm a big craft beer guy, and I love drinking local. I love supporting anything local.
Sure. Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I liken it, especially in that market.
Yeah.
If I ever walked into a store and they were playing my radio station, I even in Midwestern Ontario, I always make a point to walk up and thank them, and people would be like, "Huh?"
Yeah.
And it's never an ego thing, and it's not an "I want you to know who I am" type thing.
No, for sure.
It's one of the,
you're actually appreciative.
It's
of
one of those, hey, that's really cool, because there are a lot of stations on the dial, and especially in a border city like that, you can listen to a station in Detroit.
Right.
But I can't remember the last time that one of those Detroit,
Detroit.
of course they live in Canada, which is the case for some of them.
Right.
But I can't remember the last time that a Detroit DJ on this station came to your Pet Value and shopped at your store.
Right. Right.
I want you to know that I think it's really cool that you've got other options, but you support something local, and I want you to know that I'm local and I support you.
Awesome.
That's what I really like to see when I was in Windsor. I mean, it didn't hurt the fact that our studios were in the Walkerville district, which is gorgeous. It's a lot like Wortley.
Yeah. Very
it's
cool.
just the beautiful old buildings, old architecture, a lot of preservation.
Yeah.
The food game was very strong there. I mean, it was a really neat city.
Awesome.
And
How
it
are
wound
the
up.
ladies? Did you stay single there? Or did you get into anything?
Let's see. I moved to Windsor in April, and I was just too busy for anything.
Too busy. Were you still? Did you ever get any rebound kind of action after the divorce up where you were staying in Midwestern Ontario, or did you kind of like just focus on you? How did you deal with that? We kind of skipped over that, and I don't want to gloss over that. I want to know what's happening.
I mean, it was weird, because that's also the first time that I had been single and not fat.
In a long single, and so first time single.
Because that's the one thing you have to remember, is that by that point, there's a little bit more. I mean, it's still very. I still to this day am very self-conscious about my body.
Right.
But at that juncture, I was like, wow, I'm not fat with a mullet anymore. I mean, I'm not Elephant Man ugly. I'm no 10.
Yeah.
I'm no Sean. But
I don't think I'm a 10 either, buddy. Far from it.
I was confident that I was a solid 4.5, and there were some visually impaired women that probably would have taken me home, and they did. And God bless them.
No kidding.
So that's why I always make a donation to the Canadian Institute for the Blind.
I was just gonna say that's very nice, buddy. So how many blind women have you slept with?
Oh. Well, if I put them all in a room, they wouldn't know either. God, that's a good question. I don't know.
No, we're obviously kidding. But how many women? I'm not asking you how many women you slept with. I'm asking you, how long did it take you before you got back in the saddle after that divorce?
It was never a matter of like, I've got to, you watch that episode of Friends where, who is it, Chandler has the breakup, and there's like the 4 stages of breakup.
Yeah.
I never really allowed myself any sort of stages. It was just, and by virtue of what I do, it's a social occupation.
Sure.
So you're out and about, you're hosting events and everything else.
You're meeting people.
You meet somebody, and then it's like, okay, you have a conversation with somebody, and you're like, okay, well, do you want to grab a coffee?
Yeah. So what is it? Is it the conversation, or is it you seem like a guy that goes for sort of inner features and some flaws. So, I mean, Was there some women that you're like, holy shit, this girl is gorgeous and she's into me, I want to take her out? Or was it the conversation you're like, this girl's kind of cool? And
well, I'm terrible with it. Here's the thing is that I'm awful with women.
Okay.
Obviously. But what I mean by that is, I've had so many gay friends that have been like, oh my God, she's totally into you. And I've had so many like friends that are girls that are like, oh my God, she's totally into you. Or, even when I was married or I was in a relationship, they'd be like, that girl is totally hitting. Like they get so pissed off because I'm often the jealous boyfriend because of my past insecurities.
Right,
I still can't shake those.
Sure.
And I'm like, they weren't hitting. They're talking to me.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, I'm just completely oblivious to it. So like, it was one of those like, okay, we're having a conversation. I don't know if you're into me. I don't know if you're into me. And then like so many of them have probably just went like, because I just don't know what to do.
So do the women literally have to basically kind of invite themselves over and start peeling the clothes off before you get the hand?
Well, I mean, if they invite themselves over,
you kind of get there.
I kind of get the idea.
Yeah.
But no, it's just one of those like, okay, well maybe I'll see you at another social setting where there are a lot of people around. I'm also kind of guarded too, right? Like, so it's like if I say I'll see you at this event or this concert or anything like that, I'm also not setting myself up for heartbreak.
Right.
Because again, kind of, rejection was a bit of an underlying theme when I was 12 to 18. So it was, it was just, it kind of fell into place, literally.
Yeah, literally.
But
awesome.
Yeah, no. So I mean, that was really, the after things went sideways, it wasn't something I was like looking for. It wasn't something that I knew that I was ready for or anything like that. When it happened organically.
Awesome. So you weren't one of those guys that went out and tried to, by getting over someone, get under someone else. You just kind of took your time, did what you had to do, and let it happen.
Well, and that's the thing, right? I mean, somebody, when it ends like that and somebody leaves you, they're telling you that, there's something about you that they just can't tolerate anymore.
Right.
And that's a tough pill to swallow for somebody who wants to be liked by everybody and somebody who wants to win and somebody who wants to be successful with everything.
All those things, yeah.
So, I mean, I've had, several stages in my life where I've kind of had to, peel the layer off myself and kind of dig a little bit deeper and dig a little bit deeper. And
how have you done that? Just kind of on your own, or have you ever gone to therapy? Or
I've talked to. I mean, shortly after the things went south between me and my ex, I went and I talked to somebody. But it's the weirdest thing, right? It's a lot like you get a prescription when you get strep throat, right?
Yeah.
2 days, it's a 5-day prescription, but 2 days after you start feling good, and you're like, I don't need this shit anymore.
Yeah.
And then like on day 4, it's like, it's glass, it's glass. So that's the thing is that I went, I talked to somebody, and I probably went about a half dozen times, and it was like, hey, you know what? I'm feeling pretty good. And you realize
didn't go back.
Well, exactly. Yeah. You realize that I'm cured.
Yes.
Well, no, it's a
good day.
Be it exactly.
Yeah, you're having a good day.
You just remembered to wear pants, asshole. Yeah. I think that's such an important message. I think it's so important for people that if you need to talk to somebody, you talk to somebody, and somebody sometimes that doesn't know you, that doesn't know your story,
right,
and that doesn't care.
Yeah.
Somebody who is literally totally paid impartial. Just to sit there because they have ears.
Yes.
I think, because I go back to it and I'm like, man, I kind of took that for granted. I would have loved to have asked that question. I would have loved to have delved into that a little bit more. Mm-hmm. There are some of those insecurities from when I was younger and insecurities from even younger.
Right.
It's like, why have I forgotten so much of my life, but I still hold on to that one memory when I was 8?
Right.
I remember what I know why I've forgotten so much of 17 to 24.
Yeah.
I have Fireball to thank for that. But those type of things. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, would I go? Would I speak to somebody again? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I think now that I value that more now than ever before, because I get the fact by virtue of podcasts like these and by people sharing their story that it's okay to have stuff.
Sure.
Everybody's got stuff.
Yeah.
Nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that their Instagram says that they are, they're not always wearing glitter tits when they go out in public. That's just when they go to Bonnaroo or Coachella or Ever After or Way Home.
Yeah.
There are days that they have to put a smock on and clean up, puke or what have you.
Right.
That's what I think that I, at the end of the day have to continue to tell myself.
Yeah.
And what I, always try to talk about on my shows and stuff like that. I am a real person.
Right.
And people, I remember when I lived in Midwestern Ontario, somebody listened to my show and it came up and, oh, it's so great to meet you, handshake, can I get a photo with you and everything else? And I asked what the guy did, and he told me where he worked, and I knew that the starting salary there was like $100,000, and I'm like, bro, you make like 3.5 times as much as me.
Right.
Like, I should be getting a picture with you.
Yeah, sure.
So that's what I mean, is that, if you are authentic in whatever situation that you're in, with other people, and this kind of goes back to what I was talking about before with finding the right women to be with, whether to date, or, be in a relationship with. It's, for me, it's so cerebral, because I need you to stimulate me here,
right,
and I need you to have some sort of a trigger on this,
right,
because anybody. Dude, when the wind changes direction, it triggers that.
He's pointing to his penis, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, if I was pointing to my penis, I'd be like that. I was just pointing to a stain on my shorts.
The general region. So, like, I agree with you. I think that, like, I've had some. I've really only had one or two therapists over the years, and they've both been complete shit for me. So, like, I agree that the more and more that I talk to people, they do find some therapy that works for them. And obviously, there's people. We talk about Howard Stern. He's been in therapy for fucking 4 times a week for many years.
Absolutely,
right. And he's a firm believer in it. But and I think that people should be talking to, even if it's, like you said, someone that's impartial. But just to be talking in general is a big first step.
Yep.
And to be, maybe you do need to go to a friend, maybe you do need to go to a family member before you go to someone that is in that realm, in the therapy realm. But as long as you start talking and get comfortable bringing up the real emotions and stop hiding behind them, I think that you're stepping forward in the path of growth.
You hit the nail on the head, and I would even take that one step further and say, talking isn't the most important thing that you can do. Listening,
sure,
is the most important thing that you can do, because you have no idea when you shut up for 2 seconds how many people want to tell you their story.
Yes.
But so many people are afraid because you either don't let them get a word in edgewise, or they're just about to, and then you talk about, you burst into some sort of
the ego comes through.
Exactly.
Yeah. You need to really put that ego aside and just kind of, especially if you're being vulnerable in that moment, because if you're talking about your divorce, for instance, or something like that, someone probably that you're talking to wants to share their experience and how they can relate. But if you kind of keep going and make jokes about it and try to cover up the pain, you've just kind of missed a really good opportunity at connection.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing that people can do. And that's ironic from a guy who gets paid to talk.
But that's a cool insight, though. Right? Because, I mean, there's a lot of hosts on radio that they might not even know that. They might think about themselves, think about what they have to say, but you're bringing the audience back. You're wanting to hear about them, and, you're willing to just say, hey, this person wants to talk to me about something that obviously I can relate to. Let's hear it.
Oh, it was a trip. I mean, I so many listeners call up, and again, because I'm totally impartial, maybe they've met me, maybe they haven't met me, but they know you from spending time with you on a daily basis.
Right.
I had one listener in Midwestern Ontario. His wife had MS.
Really?
And he called me when, it gradually got worse, and then he called me when she passed away.
Really?
And then called me on my last day.
Was this live on the air? Or was it like a personal phone call?
No. Yeah. I mean, there's so many conversations that don't make the air because, those are sometimes, those are my moments to have with my friends.
Right, yeah.
Not everything needs to be, going back to Instagram, not everything needs to be public domain.
Sure.
So, I mean, my last day at the radio station, he called me up. And, I mean, this is a guy's guy, drives truck, everything else. I don't know if driving a truck makes you a guy, because I drove a truck and I'm a guy.
There's lots of sexy women driving trucks.
Hey, absolutely, absolutely. Actually, the sexiest women.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, can you come over and fix something for me because I'm useless? But no, it was the guy called me up on my last day and actually cried on the phone.
Wow.
And told me how much he appreciated when he was going through a tough spot.
Yeah.
And he was gonna miss me. And I'm like, dude, I'm not moving to Siberia.
Yeah.
You know. And
Yeah.
I told him, I was like, follow me on Facebook and stuff like that. Stay a
be
friend.
here, yeah.
Continue to share your life. And I, it's funny. I've contacted him a couple times via Facebook, checked in on him, stuff like that.
Yeah.
He's doing great now.
Good for you, man.
And he actually was doing work in London,
Yeah.
probably back in March, I think it was. And he actually called the radio station.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he's like, dude, it's neat to hear you again.
Yeah.
And I was like, have I gotten any better? He's like, no, you still suck.
That's awesome.
It's neat to hear you again.
Yeah.
Dial tone.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Life is just it's just constant connections and
Real connections.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And like I said, it could have been a very fly by night encounter that you and I had at the first event that we had.
Right.
But we shot the breeze and everything else, and then we ran into each other again, and it was like, okay, wait a second, we're in the same spot.
Yeah.
Same moment. Okay, and then you kind of have that chat and you hash things out.
Yeah.
Those are things.
And you get naked in the same room and
it was
start changing into clothes.
A little uncomfortable, but simply because I'm like, all right.
It was only uncomfortable because your underwear didn't need to come off.
I wasn't wearing them. That was the thing. It was like a pass-through change room. So I'm like, all right, this is awkward. I'm like cowering behind the
I
rack
thought we were
of
just
clothes.
comparing sword sizes. What? We're here to model?
But no, it's one of those, if you don't get involved in that charity when they ask you if you'd like to be a model,
you can miss out on.
If I don't push myself to be out there because
right.
I want to experience things being in a new city and stuff like that, you miss. I hate the Gretzky analogy, but you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Absolutely.
Right? If you sit at home on the couch or what have you, you're not putting yourself out there. You're not allowing the universe to put the people around you
to
that
do
are
its
supposed
job.
to. Yeah,
really,
exactly.
Right? Yeah. So for anyone that's and I think this is a great point, because for anyone that's suffering from depression or anxiety or kind of just feeling alone, the one thing you can do is go in whatever you're. I mean, if it's mental illness, go volunteer with the mentally ill. See that maybe there are people that have it worse than you, and sort of be grateful for the space that you are in. You might meet someone, like we've made a connection through charity, that can just kind of lift your spirits, and that can be your person. Like, I mean, you can have soulmates that don't have to be male, female, or whatever sex you're attracted to. You can have buddies that are soulmates. You can have family that are soulmates, and these are just people that are supposed to be a part of your life and are good for your soul.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can get out, you can volunteer. It's always a good thing. And you wouldn't be here if we both didn't say yes to something that really is selfless at the end of the day.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
exactly.
so-
And I mean, I always go back to that. People will ask, well, how did you become friends with this person? How did you become friends with that person? It was like, well, I was involved with that hockey organization, or I did that charity event, or somebody was looking for somebody to talk into a microphone, and I was the warmest body in the room.
Right. It's not all about swiping right and left on Tinder for the you youngsters out there. They're just fucking everything. All right. There's more to life.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's more to life than somebody's anthem right now being Despacito. Okay.
So, man, let's get back to your story and your dating life now. Let's bring it up to speed. I know you're in London. You have some love for Windsor. It sounds like you're loving the city, being here. Oh,
God. It's, and growing up, I grew up in a small town that was like literally dead center. London was an hour. Windsor was an hour.
So you're right in between.
So, I mean, I spent so much time going to both cities, doing shopping, going out, social, et cetera, that it was great. I was like, hey, Windsor, cool. I'm close to home. That's awesome. I was only 2.5 hours before. There's so many people that have it a lot more rough than me. But it was like when I moved to London, I mean, the most excited person outside of me for new opportunity, new company, great set of new people, was my mother, because the Costco on Wellington has been her Costco. Like literally, it's like when you paid the membership, I'm guessing it somehow trickles back to my mother, because she claims that she owns it since it was Price Club. So, but no, so
long time ago.
It's rad because I've always been super familiar with the city.
Yeah.
And now I'm getting to know it. It's almost like a relationship.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh my God,
you're finding the cool pockets.
Well, yeah, I went to school with you for 10 years, but we never really talked a whole lot. And you're really hot. And that's basically my relationship right now with the city, is like, so, wow, I've never been to this restaurant.
Right,
or, oh my God, you're like, I love Old East. Like, Old
yeah.
East is my favorite spot in the city.
No kidding.
Oh God,
I don't hear that every day.
Really?
Yeah. No, I don't hear that about Old East very often.
Well, and I like, again, it reminds me, I guess maybe there's a bit of an affinity for Windsor kind of shining through there, because it's, Windsor's a city that's kind of been through shit, and it's kind of coming through it right now, and it's persevering. And, Old East is kind of that neighborhood.
Building back up again.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
and
for
there's
sure.
And there's so much pride over on that side of the city, right? And it's dynamite to see.
Yeah.
But again, that's kind of London in general, because everything's broken up via community.
Yep.
And everybody is just, it's almost like a competition, because it's like, well, we're better than you. It's not snobby. It's just like, we're better than you.
They've got the competition like you do.
Yeah. I
sure.
mean, and it's just completely, it's a city that is just so widespread that it's completely different wherever you go.
Yeah. Thanks for that, city planners, by the way.
Well, Windsor's got an expressway. We dropped the ball there.
The one thing that we're all kind of we're all agreeing on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everyone's in agreement that the streets are a little bit, not quite where they should have been changed years ago.
That's going to be the next satire story on the Beaverton. Is world mixed about Wynn, world mixed about Trump. Everybody can agree. London, fuck. But no. I mean, like I was in Byron on the weekend, and just like marvelous people, and so community proud. And you come downtown,
and you get to see that firsthand, because you're live to air at a lot of these places, right?
Yeah, either live to air, you're participating in an event and stuff like that. Again, I go back to, I'm very, not a day goes by that I don't thank my lucky stars that I've got the job that I do and everything else. Because, what people, go to, and, it's like, oh my gosh, I'd really like to do that, but I've got this and this and this and this and this, or I've got to work. And I'm like, I'm going to that for work.
It sounds like you really love your job, dude. Like, it really does. I mean, it shines through, and it seems to be the one thing that has kept you going when times have been tough, and you could have gone into the depression hole, really.
Oh yeah, for sure. And like I said, it's when you're talking about a sitcom or anything like that, I guess the end product of my life is the 5-hour sitcom that I get to share every day with people. But it's, there are producers, there are executive producers, there are directors, there are stagehands, and those behind the scenes people are, they're not the co-workers, because those people are also stars of the show as well.
Yes, absolutely.
But they're the parents, they're the best friends. Yeah. They're the new romances. It's those people that prop you up, and those people that stimulate you off the air, that make you sharp on the air.
Right.
I mean, there is absolutely nothing that I would change about anything that goes on in my professional life.
No kidding. That's awesome, man.
Because, while a lot of days are exactly the same in terms of, the hours are going to be the same, you're going to do this, if you're adding a song into the playlist, like, it's not the same song that you're adding in this week. It always changes.
Sure. There's always something different. Every day is different. And you're never going to be the same guy from day after day. You might learn a thing or two along the way.
Exactly. And, your mood can sometimes, affect the content that you're picking up for your show that day.
Sure.
You're not going in to be a Debbie Downer, but, if you're at Chance the Rapper tonight and you get home at like 3:00 in the morning and you got to be up at 7 and everything else, to go in and start working on your show, you're not going to be as mentally strong. So you sometimes you grab
sacrifices.
You grab the low hanging fruit, right? The easy jokes or anything like that. You're not really going after that super. Okay, I'm gonna stimulate you today. It's basically like I'm gonna force gump my way through the next 5 hours. So no, it's it's a job that has given me so much that it doesn't feel like a job.
Speaking of Forrest Gump, he had a complicated relationship with Jenny.
Here we go.
So let's hear about this complication that's going on in your life. What's up to date with Jay and his sex life and his relationship world? Because I know that you're a softie too.
In radio is what we call a segue. So the way that worked was when I was in Windsor, and it's a really great story.
Well, let's hear it.
So I was a big 90s fan.
Okay.
And I got tickets to go see... I was more excited about the opening acts just because I want to save my credibility.
Right.
The opening acts on this bill, it was Eve Six, who I've loved since I was like in grade 8.
Pretty good, yeah.
Nobody else remembers who they are, but I bought a shirt at the show. I totally fangirled out. I don't buy concert T-shirts when I go see AC/DC in Boston, but I was like, I gotta have an Eve Six shirt. So there's Eve Six, Better Than Ezra, Sugar Ray, and Uncle Cracker. It was at the Pine Knob.
Right.
It's technically the DTE Energy Music Theater, but anybody that watches this that's ever been has been like, yeah, it's Pine Knob.
Pine Knob.
Okay. So anyway, I got tickets for it, and I was taking a couple of my friends that are like super giant 90s music fans just like me, and like 2 days before the show, my buddy's girlfriend, who I actually, if they were to break up, I would be very hard to be like, I don't think I could see either of you ever again because I love you equally.
Right. But you would be picking sides.
No, oh God. But no, they've been together for a number of years, like 8 years, and she says to me like 2 days before the show, she's like, hey, my best friend that I grew up with, is in town. Do you mind if she comes to the show? And I was just like so deflated because I've been busting my ass at work, new job and everything else, trying to, impress the coworkers, and it's a new brand. And
right.
I'm like, dude, I've been working like 60, 70-hour weeks. Like, I need an outlet. Okay. I took the afternoon off. I literally, like, it was a Thursday night show. I was going back to work on the Friday a little bit late. I'm like, I gotta let loose. I'm going to go to the States, and it's not Belgian moon there. It's blue moon there, and I am going to get jacked on it.
Yeah.
Okay. And she's like, oh, no, you really like her. And I was like, okay. So I'm like, fine.
So you almost didn't go.
It was a hybrid of like, I can't say no because then you're a dick.
Right.
And it's like, well, I could not go, but it's like, screw that. It's Eve 6. I want to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think they had a set that was like 6 minutes, but I mean, I didn't even care. Like, I was just, gotta go. So anyway, we go to the show and everything else, and we were staying overnight. And I remember saying to her, I was like, well, that's fine. I was like, Ryan and I can sleep in one bed, and you guys can sleep in the other one.
Did you fuck her on the first night?
No.
Okay, because I thought that's where this is going.
No. It was like, I went, I met her, and I was like, well, she's really pretty.
Yeah.
Again, because it's like that's the first thing that we always notice about somebody. You're looking at them from across the room or whatever else.
It happens.
Physical attraction. And then started talking to her. I was like, oh, and she's really cool. And what was it
that was so cool about her? Like, what did you remember from that night?
TSN turning point for me. I mean, it was great. I mean, she had an abundance of personality. Okay. And I mean, validated opinions.
Yeah.
Everybody's opinionated. Everybody's got one.
Sure.
But like, just, I liked the skew, of how she viewed things, and it was just like, wow, okay, this is kind of refreshing.
Cool. All right.
But I mean, she here's the Debbie Downer of it all. It's like, well, she's in town, but she lives in British Columbia, and I'm like, okay, well, I mean, it's not going anywhere, so it's like, all right, well, I'm stuck with you, you're stuck with me. Let's make the best of a shitty situation. Just have some laughs.
Sure.
But they had this party bus that came and picked you up at the hotel. So they came and grabbed us, and the dude's like, you can bring your beer on or whatever else. And we were like, what? So we ran up to the room and everything, and just grabbed a couple for the ride. And then we get there, and as they're dropping us off, we're all kind of getting off the bus, and she's just in front of me, and she gives the driver, she like goes in her purse, and she said, look, like when we leave the show, she's like, it's going to be a little bit of a hike to get back. Is it possible for you to go and pick up some cocktails for the ride home?
Really?
And the guy's like, well, what do you want? She's like, well, beer for the guys, cider for the girls, da-da-da-da-da.
What a baller move.
Gives him a 50, and he's like, and she's like, how much should it cost? And he goes, I don't know, about $20 or so. She gives him a 50, And he goes, oh, okay. And he goes, I'll keep your change. I'll give it to you. And she goes, no. She goes, keep the change because it's an inconvenience for you to have to leave this parking lot, go get that, and then come back.
Yeah.
And baller move, I guess. But it was just like it was cool.
Too. Yeah.
It was cool because it was an assertive move by a female.
Yep.
Well, number one, it was a smart move by a female because we did need the cocktails.
Yeah.
But no, it was.
But she was looking out for everyone.
Yeah. She took that initiative, and then it was like it was a very courteous move.
Courteous.
And
yes.
then it was double courteous because she knew that she was being a pain in the driver's ass, and I was like, all right, I'll. Maybe you're okay. Maybe
she wants to take care of everyone, including the driver.
Yeah, maybe you're not. Maybe you're
not. That is fucking hot, man. Yeah, like, that's a sexy move. It's not just baller. That's a sexy move.
Oh, I know. And it was like, okay, maybe you're not encroaching in my time with my friends. Maybe you're okay. And we wound up we just had laughs during the show and everything else, and it never felt awkward. Not that it should. I mean, it's for people just having drinks, watching live music and stuff like that and everything.
But it just flowed.
Yeah. And nothing, because that's the biggest thing that I was worried about. I wanted to go and have fun. I didn't want to babysit somebody. I wanted to go and I wanted to have fun, and I want this person to have a meltdown after 8 beers or anything like that, or cause any sort of drama. There's no headaches.
Right.
And it was like, well, there was one for me the next morning.
Yeah.
But I was
due to her baller move.
Yeah, exactly. So no, that was really cool. And she was in town for a few weeks. We saw each other a few more times, and then it became a situation where as she was getting ready to head back out west, it was like, well,
how was that? Like, what was that conversation like? Did you?
So it was like, I'll see you later. When are you planning on coming back home?
Right. So you didn't plan like a long distance thing at that time, or?
Well, not really that time because again, I was so busy with work. I talked about it before,
which is a good thing for long distance for you, by the way, right? If you're so passionate about your job and you're so busy with your job, then
exactly. But I'm also at that stage of my life where I've already allowed work to kind of get in the way, and if I had a relationship that was closer to home, I would be able to balance that more. I would force that balance more.
Right.
Try to find that healthy balance.
Right.
But yeah, and it wound up a situation where like a week and a half after she got back, 2 weeks after she got back, she says, this is in July. She said, what are you doing Labor Day? And I said, I actually had a prior gig from my station before that was, Sable Beach.
Yep.
And she said, well, do you want company? And she came, and I was like, well, okay, she's flying across the country. She's serious about this. So, we kind of hit it off, and it was just like, okay, let's see how far we can make this horse run.
So was this was July of which year?
It would have been July 15.
July 15. So this has been a couple years?
Yeah.
Okay, almost a couple years, I guess.
Yep.
So then, why is it complicated now?
Oh God, the big thing is, I mean,
it's been working though, like for the most part. Or?
It's been off and on.
Yeah, but you both care about each other, obviously.
Oh, very much so, much so. It's just for me, the distance thing is I'm starting to get to that point where I'm over it because I want somebody that can see the bad.
Right.
And she has definitely seen the bad. I mean, because of the fact that I didn't manifest a lot of stress very well.
Okay.
I never have.
Okay.
And she kind of called me on it. I mean, there are a lot of dependency issues. For me, at least, I get nervous, I get stressed, anxiety and everything else. Have a drink, have a couple drinks, everything else. And plus, I, in my head, I still have to be that guy that owns the room and is that crazy wild guy. And you kind of you let the moment kind of take advantage of you as opposed to taking advantage of the moment, and you just get caught up in it.
It's very insightful, though. At least you're doing that. Well,
and the thing is, like I said, it was it kind of led to the borderline demise of the first stage of our relationship, and that was the biggest eye opener for me. And I was embarrassed by it because she's like, I just don't like that. I don't, not that I don't like that. I want you to have a good time, and I don't mind if we're on the same level. But you just
drank a little too much.
Yeah, you just lose control.
Was that? Do you think that's is that a common thing when you're anxious? Do you self-medicate regularly? It is, eh?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I was having that moment. There was that little bit of self-pity there. And I called one of my best friends.
Yeah.
We've been best friends since we, could cross the street. And I explained the situation. And I said, I drank too much, and I just, it was a bit of a mess, and I kind of blacked out and everything else. And he goes, you still do that?
Really?
And just the tone was like him kicking me with a boot made of fire.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, dude, like you're supposed, because again, whether you're a girl with your best girlfriends or you're a guy with your best guy friends, it's like your squad's always got your back.
Right.
But he kind of gave it to me straight. He's like, yeah, man. He's like, it gets uncomfortable when you get that messy and everything else. And he's like, he's like, how often do you do that? And like really kind of harvested in on it. I was just...
You weren't expecting that conversation.
Well, exactly. You get cold calls like that, you don't recover.
Yeah.
And so I was, he hit me with that. I was down on the mat. I was like, okay, you know what? When your best friend identifies it like that,
maybe it's a problem.
Yeah. So that was Labor Day. And then I didn't touch a drink until February. Because at the end of the day, I wanted to know, like, if there's something going on, like if my anxiety is a trigger, because I've got terrible social anxiety, because again, it's just that fear of not being great at what I do, because this is the one thing I have.
Yeah. And a drink, it does take the edge off for
sure.
A lot of people, right?
The problem is that first drink takes the edge off, and then you have the second one to be social. You have the third one because the social drink tasted great. Then you have the fourth one because you're feeling good. Then you have the fifth one because you want to keep that good feeling going.
Oh, I know all about that.
And then it's like you're trying to keep that good feeling going. And I mean, and it even, what's scary is that if you get to 5 or 6 and you feel good, it's almost like, for people that do have dependency issues on like with alcohol, it gets scary, because it's almost like a come down from a narcotic.
Oh, absolutely.
Is when you're working your way to a good buzz, and that buzz starts to wear off, and you start to be like, that's when the anxiety is really bad, because alcohol just doesn't help it.
Right.
And
no, not at all.
So then it's like, okay,
it masks it.
I can't. I'm at 6. I can't go for 7. I'm at 6. I need to be at 16.
Yeah.
And then you're blottoed. You lose the night. You lose the moment. You lose the
count.
event. Yeah.
Everything.
And so I got away from it, and I really pushed myself to be outside of my comfort zone, and weight wise too. I mean, summertime is, you and I have talked about this before, where it's like, it's easy to hit the gym all the time in the wintertime.
Yeah. And
ironically, we want to look great in the summer, and the summer is when we let ourselves just go to shit.
Well, you just lose, exactly. I mean, there's so many things to do, and then you just put, your workouts get put away, your diet gets put away, you just start looking for the fast food, and it's tough. Yeah, you train. You see these guys all sauced up at the gym too, right? And they're just going through the motions, trying to look their best for that time they take their shirt off. A lot of those guys have invested so much money, they don't care. But for the average guy, they're trying to get in shape, and then when the time comes, it's like, all right, well, I look good enough, I guess. Right?
Exactly.
Fuck it.
So it was a situation where I think my weight by the end of Labor Day weekend was back up to about like 180, and I'm like, I'm sick of playing the teeter-totter game.
Yeah.
Because when we met, I think I was about like 165 to 170.
You're talking about you and this woman.
Yeah, and I was thinner and stuff like that. I was just kind of starting to go to the gym. I never went to the gym a whole lot, because I was super insecure about it and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
I was like, well, you know what? I'm gonna focus on being healthy. I'm gonna take a few months. We went on a break after Labor Day weekend.
Yeah.
Because it was like, okay.
She saw your dark side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't pretty. And the fact that somebody actually held the mirror up and made me see it scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right. If alcohol is not helping me, it's doing it's hurting me.
Yeah.
So I got that out of the equation, because again, as we talk about, it's life in a fishbowl with what I do.
Yep.
It had damaged that personal relationship. I've put so much into my career. I don't want it to damage my professional relationships. And you know, like being physically healthy is important to my mental health. So I'm going to focus on me, and I'm going to do this right.
Good for you.
So I took a long time away from alcohol until I wasn't scared of it. Until I knew that I could kind of control it. So
did you work on your anxiety during that time too to get any better, or do you still have that come up?
I went to the big thing for me was I was going to the gym, 6-7 days a week.
Right. That's one way to take. We talked about this on Sunday, but that's one way to tire yourself out, because when you're getting anxious, that's adrenaline coursing through your body, right? It's the fight or flight response. So as long as you're using that energy in a healthy way as opposed to the unhealthy way,
exactly,
which is fine, because I pour this drink for you and I've noticed you're not chugging it back asking me for number 2, so you're okay, you're doing better, right? There's improvement there.
But that's just it, I literally, and then it was because I was getting I putting so much time, so much money, completely rearranged my diet, was eating for what I was doing at the gym and everything else, that I was like, well, and you got to buy new clothes and everything else. So I'm like, well, I don't want to live an unhealthy lifestyle now. Like I've done this long enough, as opposed to the times where I went and, saw a counselor, 4 times and I'm cured.
Right.
But I've been doing this for months on end now that I don't want to go back. I feel great. I look the best that I've ever looked. I'm happy with who I see in the mirror.
Right.
Does that person still, need an awful long way to go? Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
But the big thing is that I don't ignore the imperfections now. I mean, the social anxieties, are they there? Absolutely. The need to be doing something all the time, is it there? Absolutely. Do I force myself to hit the pause button every so often? I do.
Yeah.
Do I sit on the couch very uncomfortable that I'm not doing anything? Yes. Did I get a fidget spinner in the mail recently? Absolutely. But
you need to meditate, buddy. I need to teach you how
I
to
know,
do that.
I know. But no, it's just that those few months to really kind of grasp what was kind of going on with me, and not ignoring the issue anymore, and just kind of embracing the fucktivity. So one of my bosses used to say that all the time.
I like that.
He goes, everybody's fucked up because it's just, how much, what's
different
the level,
levels, right?
What's the level you can sustain,
and what are you willing to be honest with yourself about?
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
Huge too, right?
For sure. So we gave it the old college try, post holidays. We kind of started talking. I kept her.
So did she
updated.
need you to work on your alcohol intake a little bit, or what how did that conversation go?
She didn't need me to work on anything. It was kind of a point where before I could be good to somebody else, I got to be good to myself. And
sure.
I think that's a positive or a powerful message for anybody.
Yep.
Is before you can
someone else.
Before you can give the heart to somebody, you gotta
love yourself.
So, and I mean, and that's something that's been very tough for me over my life, because I have never really liked myself, and all I've wanted is for others to like me.
Yeah.
And I've always kind of put myself in a weird spot,
right,
with the hopeful benefit of others.
Right.
So I spent that time, kind of working on me, getting to know me, and also talking to the people that were closest to me.
Yeah.
And kind of feeling them out in terms of, like, why? What is it?
Right.
And people were saying different things, and I wasn't looking for them to pump my tires.
Right.
It was
You're
just
looking for feedback to see if they recognize some of the stuff that maybe you're missing.
Well, yeah. I mean, tell me the things. Tell me the things that you feel I
lack in, or
or
overcompensate for.
But tell me the things. Yeah, exactly. Like and people said you don't have to be that self-deprecating guy.
Right.
And it was that point where it's like, well, I can't not be that person, but okay, maybe I do need to reinvent the shtick and start being a little bit more genuine.
It sounds like everybody's telling you to be the same guy that those close group of friends told you to be all those years ago.
Yeah,
kind of.
I know. It sucks when people are right, and you try for 15 years to prove them wrong.
Yeah.
So no, it's so I mean, I was kind of giving her some feedback in terms of where I was and how dedicated I was, and I just kept saying, that I was making myself better because I ultimately wanted to be better for us. And then we got together. It would have been, November, and it was like, okay, it clicked. And so that we fired the long distance thing back up, and that went on for a few months. And then it was kind of a situation where it was like, okay, maybe we fast forward this a little bit too much. Nothing got crazy, nothing got out of control, but it was like, okay, I had now gone that far, and it was like, okay, maybe both of us need to do some work. And then, I mean, that happens. And at the end of the day, for me, as I said before, I love making mistakes because, it's never really a mistake if you learn from it.
Right.
And I loved owning all of these new imperfections, not because I was somebody who needed, bullshit in their lives, but because I was like, once you know what's up, you can correct it.
Yeah, and that's kind of like, and I refer to all of this, whether you're talking about self-love or whether you're talking about just making positive changes, a lot of it is sort of spiritual in a way, because you start to feel spiritual about yourself. So it's like Pandora's box in the sense that once you open that lid, at first you think of it as work, but you start to have these aha moments. And when you start having those moments, you want more and more of those. You start kind of getting addicted to a more positive way of living, which seems to be improving yourself and seeing like, okay, where am I still fucked? What can I work on? And it becomes like almost like a game with yourself, right? To just,
for sure.
Yeah, and it's encouraging. And when you say, this is what drives me nuts about youngsters today. I'm not going to say kids, they're young adults, but I feel, and even people my age, when you say you need to love yourself first, I see all these people randomly hooking up and these women letting random cocks in their, in their pussies, and like just having random sex. Same with guys. It's just like, listen, I want to rack my numbers up, but you don't really have any real connection. It's like, look, how little do you care about yourself to potentially be getting pregnant or getting all these STIs, which are on the rise here in the city. So my thought process is, what are you guys sort of not admitting to yourselves, that you need all this false connectivity? It's just like the fucking social media and shit like that. So stop being so promiscuous. Maybe just take a look at what's going on and why you're being so unhealthy. Because really, at the end of the day, I know people think it's fun, but I don't think it's the best for your health. I mean, if you're being safe about it and it's what you love to do, and you're totally confident and love yourself, by all means. But I think this is a disguise for a lot of people as well.
Oh, for sure. I think at the end of the day, I mean, whatever you do, you need to be doing it for yourself. You don't need to be doing it for this. You don't need to be doing it for
numbers for your buddies.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I think that you would agree. I mean, the best sex that you'll ever have is not, with number 51, number 52, number 53, or the hottest person at the bar. It's with that person that you actually connect with.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
I mean,
I think there's a lot of crappy sex happening on a nightly basis.
That's the thing, is that there are a lot of random hookups that are not Instagram worthy. Yet I've seen that you fucked Jessica, and I'm not impressed because I saw you.
Exactly.
Both of you were hammered. You don't remember being each other's best. You weren't each other's best. I don't care if the panties are on the floor. Grow up.
Yeah, no shit. Exactly. And
thanks. You just turned me into the pissed off guy telling kids to get off their lawn. Thank you.
You know what? That goes for people that are our age as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Though. But so man, like, I wish you the best of luck with this relationship. It sounds like the distance thing is going to be something that either is like shit or get off the pot at some point in time. She sounds like a cool woman. It sounds like you both are kind of working on yourselves in the meantime, which is a great thing. It's a positive thing. Do you have any advice for, all the things you've experienced now, whether it's anxiety related, whether it's marriage related, whether it's anything you've gone through? What is the final message that you'd like to pass on from this evening? I mean, we've gone through a lot. We've been going at it for almost 2 hours.
Oh,
so
God, sorry.
That's okay, man. I'm interested, and I like to. I knew that we'd get talking, and it'd probably go over, and I'm totally okay with that, man. Like, come back anytime. I love having another guy in radio. We have a lot of things in common, or you have a lot more experience in the things that I'm interested in. It's just that, I'm trying to use this in a really raw, real way without anyone breathing over my shoulder.
Well, and I mean, I think that there are a host of things that we've kind of covered tonight.
Yeah.
And I mean, the first and foremost is you're never take a look at kind of where I'm at right now, 34 years old, and I'm realizing there are some things that maybe I haven't dealt with in my life, or some things that I've kind of swept under a rug, for a great chunk of my life, and that I'm just kind of having that aha moment now.
Right.
And look at you sitting there in front of a microphone like you've been doing it since you were 17. The big thing is that you're never too old to learn something new.
Right.
You're never too old to reinvent. The best people are the ones. The best people that you'll have in your lives are the ones that look at you and don't see perfect abs or a great ass or a lot of money or a sweet house. Mm-hmm. They're the ones that look at you.
Or a rhino cock.
Exactly. They're the ones that look at you and say, you've got a shitty house, and you're in debt, you're divorced,
right.
You've got a double chin, you got male pattern baldness,
and
they love you more because of it.
Right.
That's the big thing, is that whether you liken it to a random hookup or somebody that likes you for what you do or for what you have. The most important thing that a person has is their heart. Mm-hmm. And if somebody sees yours and they love you more for it, and they see what's in there, the good, bad, the ugly, those are the ones that keep in your life. And I had some close calls with some people that, like I said, at a very messed up time in my life, were right there waiting to help prop me up. And I thought that was awesome. And I really realized in that dark time who the best people were.
Did you ever expect, the people that kind of raised you up and had your back, did you expect all of those people, or did some people pleasantly surprise you, and did some people let you down that maybe you expected to be there?
There was, for the most part, it was the people that I thought would be there.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is that, for some of us, that was the most intense that our relationship had been.
Right.
Because there was a lot of, if you're growing up with some buddies and stuff like that, it's a lot of surface stuff.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden,
up and there's alpha male.
Exactly. It's like, I'll never not have your back, but don't be a pussy.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was a time for me.
It was a human time.
Yeah, where I got to see like the true colors of some of my guys, and I was like, yeah, I'd go to war with you tomorrow.
Cool.
And
cool.
that was really great. The other side of it is that, I get to play radio for a living.
Yeah.
You do what you want to do what you're meant to do. I had this conversation literally yesterday with somebody where I said to her, I'm so glad that you do what you do and you're allowed to be around people.
You're
allowed to be. I'm so glad you got out of jail.
I was gonna say,
no.
She sounds like she's been through a lot.
And that you work around people, because it would be a waste of your personality and how much of yourself you give to others in conversation, and how you stop to listen if you didn't. And I always go back to accountants and lawyers and everything else, and there's nothing wrong with those occupations. I'm sure they're great.
Right.
I don't talk to them. No, it's just I just honestly it breaks my heart when I see people that have things to offer, and they hold them back, or they're not really, like I say, I use the, got to see how far this horse can run. I use that analogy. People that are held back in some shape, way, or form, whether it be a relationship, whether it be an occupation, never be too afraid of what's on the other side of that fence.
What's on the other side of fear.
That it prevents you from jumping over. Because again, I'm that guy where it's like, you can't jump over that fire.
Right.
You know what? I might go to the hospital with 3rd-degree burns, but I'm going to know if I can jump over that fire.
Yeah.
And mistakes aren't mistakes if they're lessons.
Sure. No, 100%, man. Great advice. And again, man, I thank you for being here. I know it was kind of a big deal, and I'm grateful for your boss for letting you off the hook for this one. I hope I didn't overstep too much and embarrass her, big guy in any way, but big little guy.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you embarrassed me for me.
But anyway, this has been a great Mental Health and Motivational Monday, and it's been awesome to get to know you on a deeper level, aside from sort of the charity functions, just two buddies catching up. So
for sure.
If you ever need me for anything, I'll go to war with you too, brother.
Beautiful.
All right, man?
Thank you, sir.
You're very welcome. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jay Stevens, thank you for being with us tonight. And We have a really cool individual coming for Women Crush Wednesday this week. So I hope we'll see you all on Wednesday. Tune in. Cheers, guys.